Welcome to our course on asbestos hazards for workers in the United States. Asbestos is a heat-resistant mineral compound that may be in fire-resistant and insulating materials. Without appropriate controls, workers may inhale asbestos fibers when they are removing or damaging asbestos-containing materials. Inhaling asbestos fibers can cause lung damage and diseases like cancer. Because of the potential danger, federal, state, and local governments in the United States regulate how employers manage exposure to asbestos. The goal is to keep workers and the public healthy and safe when asbestos may be present. By the end of this course, you will be able to recall applicable federal regulations regarding working with asbestos in the United States. Define Class 1, 2, 3, and 4 asbestos work, and recall training, medical, and record-keeping requirements for asbestos workers in the United States. Since the 1980s, many countries have banned asbestos. Other countries restrict its use or are phasing it out over time. The United States bans all new uses of asbestos, but it may still be present in old products. For example, it might be in old roofing materials, brake lining, floor tiles, and insulation. For this reason, we regulate exposure to asbestos to protect workers, the public, and the environment. Which two federal agencies regulate asbestos exposure? It's okay if you aren't sure. We'll explain the correct answers. OSHA is responsible for the health and safety of workers who may be exposed to asbestos in the workplace or in connection with their jobs. The EPA is responsible for developing and enforcing regulations necessary to protect the public and the environment from exposure to airborne contaminants that are known to be hazardous to human health. Your employer must also comply with state and local regulations. The most important consequence of failing to comply with regulations regarding asbestos is that people will become sick and may even die of complications like cancer. For example, workers exposed to dangerous asbestos at work can damage their lungs and may also carry the asbestos home on their clothing where it can harm people around them. And no one wants that. Additionally, employers who fail to comply face consequences that vary on a case-by-case basis. OSHA and the EPA may issue significant fines and suspend or revoke permits. If a worker suffers or dies as a result of employer negligence, the responsible people may be incarcerated. Often there are lawsuits on behalf of injured or deceased employees, which can be devastating to an organization's reputation and financial status. Your employer wants people to be safe. You are taking this course because they need your help to identify and avoid dangerous conditions related to asbestos. OSHA classifies asbestos work in 4 levels. As you move from Class 4 to Class 1, each level has increasingly stringent training and control requirements. Select each class to review a brief description of it. Class 1 workers remove thermal system insulation, or TSI, and sprayed on or troweled on surfacing asbestos-containing materials, or ACM. or presumed asbestos-containing materials, also called PACM. This class of asbestos workers has the most stringent training and control requirements. Class 2 workers remove other types of asbestos-containing materials that are not thermal system insulation. This includes resilient flooring and roofing materials that contain asbestos and asbestos-containing wallboard. Class 3 workers focus on repair and maintenance operations, where workers may disturb asbestos-containing materials or presumed asbestos-containing materials. Class 4 workers perform custodial activities, such as cleaning and painting, in which they may contact asbestos-containing materials. OSHA requires employers to train all workers who may contact or be exposed to ACM. For example, this course may be part of a training program for Class 4 and Class 3 workers. Class 1 and Class 2 workers will be trained more stringently since they work directly with ACM and PACM. All classes of workers must know who is responsible for managing ACM in their work areas. They must receive training about the location of ACM in their work areas. They must also be trained about the operations and maintenance, or O&M programs, including housekeeping, specific to their employer and job requirements. Workers also need to be trained about how to safely respond to emergencies resulting from the disturbance of ACM or exposure to it. Choose the class that each statement describes. OSHA requires employers. The most important. OSHA classifies asbestos work in 4 levels. As you move from Class 4 to Class 1, each level has increasingly stringent training and control requirements. Select each class to review a brief description of it. Class 4 workers perform custodial activities, such as cleaning and painting, in which they may contact asbestos-containing materials. Class 3 workers focus on repair and maintenance operations, where workers may disturb asbestos-containing materials or presumed asbestos-containing materials. Class 2 workers remove other types of asbestos-containing materials that are not thermal system insulation. This includes resilient flooring and roofing materials that contain asbestos and asbestos-containing wallboard. Class 1 workers remove thermal system insulation, or TSI, and sprayed on or troweled on surfacing asbestos-containing materials, or ACM, or presumed asbestos-containing materials, also called PACM. This class of asbestos workers has the most stringent training and control requirements. OSHA requires. Choose the class that each statement describes. OSHA OSHA The most important consequence of OSHA classifies asbestos work in 4 levels. As you move from Class 4 to Class 1, each Class 4 workers perform custodial. Class 3 workers focus on repair and maintenance operations, where workers may disturb as Class 2 workers remove other types of asbestos-containing. Class 1 workers remove thermal system insulation. OSHA requires employees choose the class that each statement describes. Take a moment to review the correct answers before you proceed. Another way that regulations protect worker health and safety is by requiring employers to use medical surveillance programs and maintain records. Regulations require employers to provide free medical exams to workers who engage in any asbestos work other than maintenance or custodial work for 30 or more days per year where asbestos is present but will not be disturbed. During these free exams, workers will complete a comprehensive medical questionnaire. A medical professional will perform a physical examination and a full lung function exam. Medical professionals will provide employers with the results of the exams in writing. The results will include their opinions regarding the patient's health risk if exposed to asbestos. They will not share information about any findings or diagnoses that are not related to asbestos exposure. The employer must provide a copy of the results to the patient within 30 days of receiving it. These exams will happen every year. In the United States, workers have a right to see information that employers collect on hazards in the workplace. Many of the health effects of asbestos exposure can manifest or worsen over time. To ensure that workers have access to important information about their health and safety over the years, employers must keep accurate physical or digital records for a minimum number of years. They must keep asbestos monitoring measurements for at least the past 30 years. They must keep medical surveillance records, including medical professionals' written opinions for the duration of the worker's employment, plus another 30 years. They must also keep training records for 1 year beyond the last date of the worker's employment. Employers must keep medical surveillance records, including medical professionals' written opinions for the duration of the worker's employment, plus how long. You should now be able to recall applicable federal regulations regarding working with asbestos in the United States. Define Class 1, 2, 3, and 4 asbestos work. And recall training, medical, and record-keeping requirements for asbestos workers in the United States.